Greetings, I'm Raisa Nazaire, and welcome to Thoughtful Thursdays. I'm coming to you with deep dives, with paradigm shifts and inspiration that helps us all to grow and expand. Each Thursday, we take a thought, a concept that is simple in itself, yet when we dive deeper, we get those nuggets of wisdom that help us to do that expansion and that growth and help us to evolve to the next level. This week's hold that thought is focus plus openness equals flow. And this is the dance between precision and possibility. Because normally we think of focus and we have to really focus in on something in order to be successful in completing it. Excuse me. And so we tighten our attention and yeah, that'll help us to achieve it. On the other end of that is if we leave that intense focus unchecked, it turns into force and it starts to become limitation and possibility begins to recede. And so, therefore, we also need that openness because openness is the counterbalance. It's the other end of the spectrum. And openness allows us to listen, to receive, and just to have a full sense of allowing. Yet, without direction, the downside of openness is that we can drift away. We can begin working on other things. It's the start without the finish. And flow lives where these two meet together. It's not about control, it's not about surrender, it's about integration. And for those of you who have been listening to me for a while, you know that I always talk about integration because things are never either or. They are always some point in the integration of opposite sides of the coin or different ends of the spectrum. And depending on the situation, we have to discern how much of one factor that we want to or need to use in that current situation, right? For example, fear and courage. Fear on its downside can stop us from doing things. But on the high side, when fear pops up, it gives us the energy to tap into our courage. And so, depending on the situation, we need to balance the amount of fear and courage that allows us the flow and flow into the activity that we are looking to perform. So in flow, your attention is steady, but it's not tense. And you're aware of what's unfolding without feeling the need to control it. And that's where creativity, timing, and clarity begin to move through you. And it's a state where you're not pushing for an outcome, you're participating in the actual alignment of it. And if you think about, for example, a musician who's performing, and he's got to think about the rhythm, the melody, the lyrics, yet at the same time, he needs to be open to what's going on in the room. What level of participation that people are open to and go off of that vibe, the spontaneity that needs to be there in the moment, and to have the focus and the openness to create the best experience so that the music just simply pours out. And to have that level of balance, we need to see the patterns and the connections. And to help us do that, we're noticing what our experience, this current moment, is teaching us. And when we start to hold focus and openness together, then we see that something really deeper and more beautiful starts to arise in our experience. And we're moving from doing focus to being attuned in the moment so that we are open to possibility. And the moment that we begin to enter this state, we see that patterns begin to appear and we start to see the connections that guide us toward alignment. And flow is going to speak to us through these signals, through intuitive hits, through personal relevance, through emotional response, and through timing. And in intuitive hits, it's asking us to notice those subtle things that are nudging us to take a deeper look, right? They're part of the conversation that our being is having with us to guide us toward alignment. And so we want to trust that. And they often happen before logic starts to catch up or logic starts to take over. And then we want to think about the personal relevance, which really is just saying what's standing out for you, what's catching your attention, and what's stirring up your energy. Because relevance is resonance, it's our inner being highlighting what matters to us the most right now in this space and time. And emotional response is what you're feeling right now in the moment. Is it expansion? Is it ease? Is it resistance? Because emotions are an early signal and they're telling us where we are either forcing or aligning. We feel it. And then finally, there's timing. Timing is when we know that the rhythm is there because flow has rhythm. Without rhythm, there's no flow. And so when things align, things feel natural. The conversations in sync, for example, our ideas are actually landing. We feel like the doors of possibility are opening for us. And on the other side of that is when it's off, you know it's off. You feel the friction. And that friction isn't telling us that we failed. It's telling us that it's just a form of feedback so that we know that we need to reassess, in this case, the balance between our focus and our openness. So as you hold your next thought, remember, don't rush to think harder. Instead, observe for these four cues. And just a little dive deeper into this, here's some steps on integrating focus and flow. So from common sense all the way to diving just a little deeper and giving it more of your attention as to what you can integrate versus things being one or the another, extreme focus or otherwise. So first step, identify your goal. And your goal could be personal, it could be a project, or it could be a skill that you want to master, but you want to begin it with clarity. What's truly important right now, whether it's a project or a relationship or a skill or a state of being, naming it focuses in your energy. And so next you want to build that focus with practices like meditation and before you start, visualization on how you want the end to be, or other techniques that help you to get your mental energy aligned. And then the next step is to foster openness. Be open to possibility. Be open to the unexpected. And to be curious. Because remember, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back. And cats have 9 lives. So we can be like that cat to be open to curiosity And what it's killing off is old habits, old patterns, things that no longer serve us as we move forward and spiral up in our lives to the next level. And then we find our flow. So as we find the right balance of focus and openness for the current situation, we can notice at the exact moment when we enter into a state of flow, right? And this is the moment when you're feeling the most energized and you're feeling the most engaged. Now, this is a reiterative process. It's an evolving process. So when you learn how to refine your focus and are clear that it's a balance between focus and openness that you're always recalibrating towards, depending on the current situation, you realize that this is a dynamic process that's going to evolve over time. And so at the end of the day, we want to let our focus guide us and our openness to surprise us. That's the recipe for evolving success. If you want to hear more, get my book on everyday emotional vocabulary. It's key to starting those paradigm shifts from what we have established as the norm to move towards the possibility that exists when we are open to looking at it from a different perspective, which is why I named the book Everyday Emotional Vocabulary that helps you shift the kaleidoscope of your perspective. And if you like what you heard today, like, share, and follow. I'm on all social media at Think Be Well Now. And check out my webpage as well. You can find out about my other books. I have journals out there. And I also do consulting on an individual and a corporate level. And I'm open to speaking engagements as well. So you can find out about more of that at RaisaTheAuthor.com services. Until the next time, I invite you to stay open to possibility and use that balance of focus and openness to create flow.